Today's episode is sponsored by Anthem Tattoo in Gainesville, Florida, who have teamed up with the Fest Grace raffle to give you a chance to enter to win signed books by Justin Pearson, handmade guitars from King Electric Guitars, signed test pressings from Less Than Jake, as well as other rare items from Sam I Am, Dillinger 4, and The Bouncing Souls, as well as so much more. And the best part? All proceeds go to Grace Marketplace and their mission to end homelessness. Find out more on Instagram at the Fest Grace Raffle or grace.rallyup.com. That's GRACE.RALLUP.com. Hello, and welcome to Everything Remade, a podcast that I hope is about growth as much as it is about music. I'm Edie Quinn, and we have a great show lined up for you today. Before we get started, though, I'd like to remind you about our Patreon page at patreon.com/humanmachine, where you can go to sign up to read comics, get music sneak peeks, and so much more. That's patreon.com/humanmachine. And now, I'd like to play something for you. You're hearing Flashbulb by Lovergirl, featuring my new pal Elena on guitar and vocals. The song comes from their debut release, It Felt Just Like You Were Alive, which you can find on Bandcamp now.
When I was younger, I really hated music. Like, it just kind of annoyed me. And, like, I think it comes back to, like, I'm like an autistic individual, and I used to kind of just be like, I was just like, oh, that's just, like, loud noise, and I don't like it. But I think, like, I had, like, older siblings who were really into music, really into, like, alternative music and stuff, and they, like, I think it was like gradual exposure therapy from my older sister, like playing like lots of the music she liked, like Nirvana and like REM and Red Hot Chili Peppers and that kind of thing. That eventually, like, I started to get into it and I started to like music after all. And like there were like a few songs that I remember like sort of being like my gateway into it. But like it's certainly like a thing like when I was younger, like if there was something that I really like enjoyed that I would try and like learn how to make it myself. Like I remember I used to spend a lot of time on internet forums when I was like in middle school and stuff, and like that like kind of pushed me into getting really into Photoshop so I could like make my own funny images and that kind of stuff. So eventually like when I got really into music, I was just like, well, okay, yeah, I got to learn how to like do this myself and stuff. And it like kind of happened when like I guess when I got my first iTunes account, I suppose, and like I started like uploading like some of my sister's CDs into my iTunes library, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool. This is a cool thing." And like my like dad had like a guitar sitting around that he like had never learned how to play or anything, and like my sister had like tried to learn how to play when she was younger but never really stuck with it. But like I just picked it up and like, looked at some tabs online and stuff, learned some riffs, and then just kind of kept going. And that's kind of like the origin story, so to speak.
Yeah. Were you you said you were ripping songs onto your
My iTunes
your
library,
yeah,
yeah.
your iTunes. So since you came from this sort of like I don't like music to like I like music but more like
Yeah.
passively to like ripping albums, like would this have been your first like experience more or less like sitting and listening to an album like in its entirety?
Yeah, kind of, but it wasn't really like a full album that I remember ripping because I remember this moment very vividly because I was ripping like a Bruce Springsteen like greatest hits CD, and like Bruce Springsteen's like my guy. That's like my dude. Like I have like a framed photo of him in my bedroom kind of thing, and I was just like kind of like, oh yeah, I just like his like like his big hit songs and stuff. So I was kind of just like ripping all the ones from like this like 2 to 3 disc like Bruce Springsteen greatest hits albums, just like ripping all the songs that I liked, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you would get along really great with one of my aunts.
Yeah,
She's obsessed with Bruce Springsteen. Um, but
cool
I
guy. He's a cool guy. He
yeah,
writes cool songs.
I just saw this thing the other day where he like went into this. He went into a store supposedly. I mean, there was a photo of him with his wallet out, and he went into this store supposedly, and he was like, "I want the biggest gummy bear you've got," and they brought it out, and he was like, "How much is it?" And they were like $30, and he just walked away. And I was like, "That's funny because like $30 is nothing to him." You know, he's like
Nothing to him.
one of the only two musicians that I know of that are like billionaires, but like that's
Yeah.
nothing to him. But like, good on you for having a principle. Like, I am not paying $30 for a gummy bear.
Stingy, the value, clearly he knows what something's worth. Even though I don't know, I'm flat broke, and I would probably spend $30 on a giant gummy bear.
Well, that's the thing,
Just-
right? Because you figure, like, whoever he went in there for, it was like, this person loves gummy bears. I'm going to get them the biggest gummy bear there is. And at that point, like, yeah, it could, like, I'm flat broke too, but it could have cost $50 if it was for my wife or one of my kids. Like, I'm like, okay, God damn it, I'm gonna figure out how to get $50 and I'll be back, because like, yeah, but it's just, it kind of makes it even funnier in that respect, It's like, um, well, I got you the second biggest one, or I don't know.
I'm like, maybe it was just like not even that big. Like they carted it out, and it was like $30. Like it needs to be a lot bigger for $30. Like if
Yeah,
you're just handing me like gummy
well,
bear that's like the size of a fist, like
yeah,
nah.
no, no. There was a photo of it on the counter, and it was like, the size. It looked like it was about 12 inches. It was the size of a like a,
Eh,
a teddy bear, like. But I say teddy bear, and that they're all kinds of sizes,
yeah,
so that doesn't. But it looked like it was like
yeah. I get
between 12 and 18 inches, just like
yeah.
roughly. But it looked pretty
See,
big.
like I'm thinking about like the $30 giant gummy bear. I'm thinking like the
Three
size of
feet.
like a guitar kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Like put like
yeah,
sits on the counter and like you got to put it in the
yeah,
child seat on the way home and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'd spend $30 on
Yeah,
that.
for sure. Yeah.
Any day of the week.
Um but yeah, like you said you're going online and you're sort of YouTubing and looking up tabs like when you were first getting started like what were you
Oh yeah.
trying to play? Were you trying to play Bruce Springsteen songs at that point or like were you venturing into like more like you mentioned Nirvana and stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, to me, it's like I think the only like I remember when I was younger, I kind of had a hard time differentiating like instruments in music. So it's like a lot of Bruce Springsteen songs. It's kind of like didn't make sense to me that there was guitar in those songs because I
Yeah.
like didn't really have like the concept of like chords and like chords moving under the music and stuff. So like the only thing that I really took from songs as like guitar were like the like bodacious like bombastic riffs kind of thing.
Hmm.
So like I immediately when I was starting to learn how to play guitar went gravitated towards learning how to play riffs. The first few songs that I learned how to play was like the Come As You Are riff from Nirvana and like the opening riff to Today by the Smashing Pumpkins. And I think the first one I ever learned was like the little acoustic guitar intro riff from Redemption Song by Bob Marley because I was really into Bob Marley when I was like 12. And yeah, so it was like kind of just like learning riffs sort of thing.
I was never into Bob Marley necessarily, but I was really into his drummer for like a year
Oh, yeah.
like when I started getting like more serious about drums. I cannot remember the person's name off the top of my head right now, but like he basically invented like hundreds of beats that like
Yeah,
are most
the reggae
popular
playing.
in reggae, of course, but like, yeah, it's just like it was so wild to me when I was reading about like I don't know, this information came to me from somewhere else. I don't remember, but it
Mhm.
was like this guy made up like he invented like more beats than almost anybody else like in history or something, and I was like, holy shit, I gotta like check this out. And I never thought like except for like ooh like the Misfits or something, I never thought that
Mhm.
like some drums were just like necessarily easy, even though didn't
Yeah.
it came to me sort of easily. But like you know especially when stuff wasn't that flashy. Like if someone was really flashy, I'm like, oh, that's hard. Like Neil Peart or whatever, I'm like, oh, that's hard.
Mhm.
But like I never like listened to specifically the drums in like Bob Marley songs or whatever, the few that I'd heard.
Yeah.
And then when you do, you're like, there's really some shit going on. Like this is amazing.
Like, it's really complex,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like it's holding down the groove, like, so effortlessly. Like, I haven't listened to a lot of his stuff for, like, maybe, like, a decade, but, like, I went back to my mom's house recently, and I retrieved, like, my Bob Marley CD that I had, and I listened to it when I was driving back to my house, and I was just like, "Yo, yeah, like, holy shit." Like, the musicality of, like, all these, like, players on here is just, like, really intricate for something that, like, when you listen to it, just sounds, like, so simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think especially like if you're not well versed in the genre, just like with screamo, like people who don't listen to screamo, it's like it as a genre, like from the outside, it seems kind of samey to you, like
Yeah.
just like, oh, that's what reggae sounds like or whatever, and then when you get into the more particulars, you're like, holy shit, like there's work happening, um,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's very cool. So like, you're learning, um, and like, was your ultimate goal like right away to like make your own songs, or was it just like at first you're just like, hey, I like this, I like playing, like maybe I'll start a band someday, or like was that it from the jump?
Yeah. I don't think, like, I really understood, like, what songwriting or, like, composition was for, like, maybe, like, the first 5 years I was learning how to play guitar, because I was kinda just, like, learning how to play, like, other people's songs, and I really was into the idea of, like, being in a band, but, like, I grew up in, like, this, like, small town, and, like, no one was into alternative music other than me. Like, there was, like, maybe like 2,000 people. I was like the only person in my high school that wore like black pants and that kind of stuff. And like eventually, like a couple years in, I kind of like realized that like, well, I was gonna have to like make music myself basically. So like I got a drum kit and like started learning how to play the drums. And then I like immediately when I got a drum kit, there was this other guy in our town who was like a metalhead, like metal guitarist, and he basically like came up to me at school and was like, "Well, we're gonna be in a band now." So I was kind of like typecast as a drummer for like a really long time. So I kind of really was just like, okay, other people are like writing the songs. I can just like kind of like come up with the beat, and then I don't really have to worry about writing anything. But a couple years of into like getting into playing guitar, I eventually started just like coming up with my own riffs and like being like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. That's and like kind of like saving them on like my computer, recording them and saving them on my computer, and like trying to write my own songs. But it really wasn't until like I was in college and was joining a band as a guitar player that like I was like, oh, okay, this is how like I gonna have to like start piecing like all these parts that I've been writing independently together into like songs kind of thing.
Yeah. um Now, like you got there, but like what like were you when you were like you say you're just like um recording like bits and pieces here and there.
Mhm.
Was it not like where you're just like trying to see what came next, or was it just like you felt like you were coming by these riffs like by like accident almost.
Oh yeah, definitely by accident. Like I would just kind of be playing, like kind of like noodling or whatever, and then just like, oh yeah, playing something that sounds cool and putting it down, and then being like, I don't really know how to turn this into a song,
Yeah.
because like I had no concept of like any sort of like music theory. Like when I learned how to play songs, I really only learned how to play parts. I never really learned how to play like a whole song, so I didn't really know how like parts like fit together or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it was yeah, so it's really kind of just like the like having the pressure under my ass of like having to like actually figure out how to write a song that kind of got me to figure out how to like put things together in like a cohesive way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
like with me, it's just like like some of the first songs I learned like were like Ramones and stuff, right? And so
Hmm.
that's really simple. And I have like a pretty analytical kind of brain anyway. So it was more just like I'm like, well, they play three chords this way four times, and then they like more or less play three more chords, but like kind of like in a reverse order. Then they go back to the first thing, and I'll be writing down like four, you know, and then I'll be writing down four, and then I'm like, well, they basically just repeat this whole thing like, um, you know, three times, and then the song's over. It's like they do this part, they do that part, they do this part, and so for the first couple of songs that I wrote, it was just like more or less like, well, I can put three chords together and then I can just put three more and like let's see what it sounds like. And I'm like obviously like none of those songs were like good, but
Yeah,
it was
the punk rock classic.
yeah,
Yeah,
it simplified it for me. It was like, oh, you just like you literally just make them go together, and like sometimes it sounds better than others, and then like
yeah,
obviously the more your the more your language, the vocabulary with your instrument expands, then the more you can understand like the vocabulary that you're like hearing as well. And so by the time you get into or like I got into stuff like fugazi and stuff like that, then I'm
mhm,
like, oh, there's like you can literally just make like none of this stuff has to go any certain number of times the same way,
yeah,
any certain number of ways, like, and if you want, you can just actually just stop the songs and just jump right back in, and all the
yeah.
things like all these different
You do whatever the
bands.
fuck you want.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And yeah, I don't know, it's interesting, like sometimes when I think about my own like songwriting, like I when I get reminiscent about times like this, and I don't mean reminiscent as in like I wish it was still like that, but when I get
mhm,
reminiscent about it, I'm like, damn, like I really like realized at some point that the whole world was open to you as far as like songwriting, and then like
mhm,
later you get so comfortable just doing the thing that you do that like you
yeah,
don't veer outside of that as much as you should. And I'm like, I need to like you know what I mean? Like I need to
mhm,
stop like
yeah,
just being comfortable and just like ripping through some songs, I need to like
yeah.
be uncomfortable or like um I don't know. I don't know how you feel about it, but like I don't like to like force myself. I
Yeah.
don't.
Well, I mean, it's like definitely like you were saying something earlier about like sort of like the language of like being able to communicate through your instrument kind of thing. Like it's
Mhm.
like, like it's often like you can only, write a story with the words kind of thing.
Right.
But it's often like sometimes you have to take some time to learn some different words and kind of stuff. I mean, when I was first learning how to write songs, like I've never honestly been able to figure out how to write songs like with chords in mind. It's always kind of just like like a writing a guitar part and then having it cycle through into another guitar part and so on and so forth. Like I mean, at some point, like when I started joining bands, I like kind of sat down and forced myself to learn music theory. So like I kind of understand what's happening when I do that. But like I never am just like sitting down and being like, okay, so we're gonna move through like a 1, like a 4 and a 6, and then we're gonna shift, we're gonna modulate over to this or anything like that. It's always just like, hey, this thing I played on guitar sounds cool. It's gonna sound cool when it moves into this other thing that I play on guitar. And then if I want to, like, be lazy, I can adapt it to the pop song structure. I can call this part the verse, this part the chorus, do that once, twice, write a bridge, and then do the chorus one final time. But when I got into screamo, I was like, well, I can't do that kind of thing. So now it's kind of just like I've been getting really into linear songwriting, especially like with this Lovergirl album. I feel like a lot of the writing is kind of just like parts coming and going and kind of thing. So it's kind of just like streaming together a bunch of things.
I call it the mega song.
Oh yeah.
because,
Yeah.
because
Drummer in one of my other bands called it like a riff salad
riff
of
salad,
a
that's
song. Yeah.
delicious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. My cousin and I, we had like this, like, I don't know, it's silly. One time my cousin was getting a soda at the gas station, and he's like, yeah, I got like 10 on pump 2 and the big gulp. And the guy at the gas station goes, um it's not a big gulp, it's a mega gulp. And he was like, oh, I'm so sorry, and so
So sorry. I
he
had no
started
idea.
calling himself Mega Kenny after that. And so like everything became mega for a while. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm like, yeah, this is a mega song. And it's like, yeah, um I actually like became like really fascinated with this idea, like, I don't know, 20 years ago or whatever. But like, I never could I never could convince any bandmates like to let me just call the whole album like one song, you know?
Yeah.
Like they're always like, "Nah, like let's not." And it makes a whole lot of sense, like their like unwillingness to do that, like
Hmm.
like one of the albums was like 38 minutes long or something, and it was, I was like, this is one song, and they're like, is it though? And I'm like,
Is
well,
it?
I'm like, it is. And they're like, well, can we call it 6 songs? So I was like, fine. And like,
Why not?
yeah, I mean, and like, to be fair, it's like, if you've ever looked at like Bandcamp stats for like skipped songs and
Mhm.
stuff, like, to be fair, and this was like years before Bandcamp, but like if you were looking at an album that had one song and it was like 38 minutes, you would like not get one single full play out of that, like not one,
Oh yeah.
because it's got to be like what, like it's got to be like 20% of the song. It's got to be like a lot of the song. So like
Yeah.
if it was, at the very least, if it was 20% of 38 minutes, it got to be almost 8 minutes worth of the song that somebody listened to at one time to count it as an actual play. So it was like,
Oh, geez, yeah.
that was their idea, was they were like, no, because people will just turn it off and they'll never hear the whole
Yeah.
thing, and I'm like,
People
okay,
mad.
yeah.
They can't skip to their favorite part.
Yeah. But see,
Yeah.
but I thought that was like, I thought that was part of the thing too, though, is like, it's like, and this is like this is very, this is I guess, egotistical, or I don't know if that's the right word, but like, you know, you spend months working on these songs, like as a group. Before that, you maybe, like in the case of that particular album, like I worked on these parts for like months by myself. So this album, like by the time we made it, it was like 2 years of work.
Mhm.
And like my, idea, and it's like I value people's time. It's not that, but it's just my idea was just like, if they don't want to listen to the whole thing, then fine. They don't have to. Like,
Okay.
like fuck it.
Yeah,
You know, that's fine.
I love
And
I love like creating an antagonistic relationship with your audience. I think is just very it's a very nice thing to do.
well, it's just like, like I think that music, people who make music, we're giving the world something. And
Hmm.
the whole world doesn't have to receive it. The whole world doesn't have to like it, but it's a gift. And like to treat it as anything less than that is just like sacrilege to me, because like I just like when I get on the computer and I start recording music, like I still can't believe that I can actually do this. Like I'm just
Oh
like,
yeah.
this is so wild. This is all I ever wanted, like since I can, remember. Like is to just be in control of like making songs. Like, because it was like for a long time it was like I was in bands and, but then you got to find somebody to record you. And you're like,
Hmm.
damn, wouldn't it be so fucking sick if you could just do this yourself? And then, of course, like later, you get a 4 track or whatever, and you're like, this is fucking sick. This is amazing. But it's also like more complicated than like, things are now, where it's just like, I could hit you up for a guitar track today and we could make a song,
Yeah.
and it's fucking amazing. Like,
Easy.
and there's nothing about that that's ever going to be like, I take this for granted, So
Yeah.
I don't know. I do have that sort of like, you know, like it, like accept the gift or don't, that's
Awe
fine.
and reverence.
But it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, you know, we're really doing something. And the people that do connect with it, like they they feel me. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I don't
they
know.
get it.
Yeah.
The people that get it, and the girls that don't.
Yeah,
Classic
which
shit.
is fine. Like they'll like something else, Like and
Yeah.
like somebody else will have made that thing, and hopefully they
The
show.
Green Carpenter song is right there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um trans ally, I guess. I did not
That's
know that.
Carpenter.
Yeah, yeah. Um but yeah, it's I don't know. Sometimes it is a long way before it's like, you're here and you're making your songs and like playing with people that like also inspire you. But like, um,
People are like-minded kind of thing because you
yeah,
can
yeah,
cycle through so many people that don't really get what you're trying to do.
yeah.
But it's kind of also just like, well, I just want to be in a band, and these are the people who are available to be in a band. So,
Right. Like you were saying, like, in your case, like in your first thing, like there's literally just nobody else. Like, oh, this guy likes metal. Like, I guess we're in a band
yep,
because that's all
I
there
guess I'm
is.
playing drums in your hair metal band now.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah. But like you get like the experience you need out of that, too, because
Mhm.
you can't just like, I mean, there are people that do. Like, there's people that are way younger than I was when I started bands, like just writing the most ridiculous shit, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't get it. But like, um, usually most people, it's like, yeah, you got to have these experiences. You gotta understand, like, even if you can't put like words to it, you just gotta understand like why something's working with certain kinds of people, or certain, like, not kinds of people, but just certain people,
Certain people.
and why it is working with other people. And like, yeah, I don't know. How many bands were you sort of like in over the years? Like, were you in other bands before this that like released music that you're proud of and things like that? Like, it
Oh
seems like,
yeah. I mean, in the Minneapolis scene, I'm kind of like famous for being in like a gazillion bands because I am in like I have been in like 7 bands. A couple of those bands have like fizzled out since then, but like I mean, I've been in so many bands. I was in like a metal band in high school, like I said. I was like played like farmers market shows and like cover bands and kind of shit. I
Hmm.
was in like emo bands when I was in college. I was in like a country rock band in college. And then yeah, I moved up to Minneapolis from Iowa, which is where I grew up, and I kind of like found my way into the scene because I've been in this band in Iowa City called Basketball Divorce Court for like a long time. And Basketball Divorce Court, in our heyday, like pre-pandemic, we were kind of like the it band in Iowa City.
Hmm.
But then moved up to Minneapolis because we knew a lot of people in Minneapolis, and I couldn't find work in Iowa or anything like that. And then found my way into the music scene. Started transitioning at that period to, and that was around the time when the Minneapolis music scene became increasingly more queer and trans in general.
Hmm.
And then just kind of like met so many different people up here that I wanted to start bands with, and I just ended up in like 7 bands. And Lovergirl's not even like the one that I'm most known for. Lovergirl's kind of like a side project of, because like all of the 3 of us that are in Lovergirl, me, Sophia, and Angie, we're all also in other bands. And a lot of those other bands that we're in would be considered like main bands. Like
Right.
Sophia's in this band called Melanerpes, which was like her first band and is like the band she's most known for around town. And Angie plays drums in like a band with her brother called Blue Driver, and they've been pretty popular around here for a couple years. And I'm in like 5 other bands. So yeah, like just a lot of like, and like they're all like different genres too. Like Lovergirl's like my screamo band. I'm in like 2 hardcore bands. I'm in a post-hardcore band, and was in a shoegaze band and an indie rock band, and it's just fun. I like being in bands. It's really
Yeah.
nice.
What are your other current active bands called?
Well, my other current active bands are, I'm still in Basketball Divorce Court despite everything. I'm in another band called The Briefly Gorgeous, which is an indie rock band I play bass in. I'm in a hardcore band called Slut Intent that I play guitar in. I'm in another hardcore band called Slog, Sexy Ladies of God, that I play bass in. And then I'm in Lover Girl
Oh,
that I
okay.
play guitar in.
Okay. Yeah, I there's so much stuff coming out of Minneapolis constantly that like
Oh,
it
yeah.
would have been easy for me to assume that like the same like 5 or 6 girls were in all the bands. So like
Oh, it's absolutely true. Yeah, it's
yeah,
100%. It's like there's like 20 of us, and like 90% of the bands that are coming out are
yeah,
just like one of us.
yeah. But then I saw some band that like just released the thing like within the last, I don't even know what today's date is. It might have been released today. I don't know. But it was like some band called And I Found a Way or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And I looked at it and I was like, I don't think I don't think those are people from other bands, but I'm not sure. Like, and I was just like, yeah, I mean, it's like it's something like every other day. Like there's some new heat coming out of Minneapolis, and like
Oh yeah.
a lot of it is trans.
Oh yeah.
Um,
We have the best scene in the country, unfortunately. For all the other
Unfortunately.
scenes. Unfortunately for all the other scenes, great for us,
Oh,
but
okay, okay. I was confused about that. Yeah,
yeah.
I I can't I can't think of. I mean, it's like California is always like California is the best, but it's like,
Yeah.
can you all like name a specific city? Like, no. You know what I mean?
No.
It's just like California, like um
Yeah.
in
And
general.
Minneapolis is very DIY too with its like ethics, and like I don't know. Like I feel like a lot of scenes that I've also been around too, because I've been on tour an awful lot. Like a lot of those cities that purport to have like another really great scene, it's usually just like like a lot of bar venues and a lot of like that have those sort of like 21 plus like sort of like exclusionary policies. But like Minneapolis especially is very DIY centric. It's very activist centric. Like a lot of like the things we do in the scene aren't meant to like enrich ourselves or like get our clout up or our money up, so to speak. Like everybody's kind of in it for like a sort of community basis
Mm-hmm.
rather than just like push a career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm I'm pretty like historically like anti like bar show. When we
Yeah.
would like go on tour, like we would not do it, and stuff like that. And then
Hmm.
we got asked to play a show by a band, and we don't get asked that much. I think people think we don't play
Hmm.
shows, even though we release like a new album every year. But
Hmm.
but like, so we got asked to play a show, and I was just like, yeah, let's do it. Like, this band seems cool, and we don't get asked that much. And I checked with the other people, and they said they could do it. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then like they got back to me, and they're like, it's at this place, and I was like, oh shit, that's a bar. But also, it is like 4 minutes from where I live, so and like my car at the time, like I couldn't even play like an hour outside of town because like there's something wrong with
Oh
my
yeah.
transmission, so like I couldn't risk it, and
Hmm.
so I'm like, yeah, okay, well that's cool, like I'll do it. And I gotta
Yeah.
say that like I'm still not trying to play bars, but in this case, like that was the most trans people I've ever been around in my own hometown, like ever. And I was like,
Oh yeah.
this place is fucking cool. So like as far as bars
This
go, I was
rule.
like, that fucking rules. It's like
Yeah.
I've like I like in my town, like I have seen I've seen two trans people, like period, in years, like just out, and
Hmm.
then we play this show, and there's like, you know, like there's 10 other trans people there, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Where'd
this
they come
fucking
from?
rules. Yeah. um so like
Yeah.
it was nice to know, like I'm, like there was one person I saw at the grocery store once, and there's one person that used to work at the library, but I don't think works at the library anymore. And I'm like, yeah, this sucks, and then I'm like, wait, no, actually, I guess this place is all right. I just don't go to bars. um
The thing about Minneapolis too is it's like not only like are like a healthy percentage of like the people in bands making music trans, like the audience that we primarily play to is also like trans and queer, and we have like these very specific like trans focused like sort of events like doll brawl and that kind of thing. And like so you can go to like a show at like one of our like main DIY venues and look out and see that your crowd of like 100 or so people is like probably like 80% trans. And it's like just honestly so cool because like for some reason like the trans community here is just like, oh yeah, the thing that we like to do is go to punk shows and like beat each other up and get real sweaty, and it's like so nice.
yeah. Yeah, it's I think about this a lot, and I don't, I can't like obviously like no one is a monolith or anything, but I do
Mhm.
think about a lot about how like, you know, similar some of our stories are. Like, I also like grew up in a pretty small town, um and like how we all sort of come to punk music like in these different ways, but like we're we all found our way here because we were like looking for something, and like
Mhm.
and we didn't feel like other people. And so it's like i I've thought like, yeah, um like there's not that many like trans people where I live. So how are like all my friends trans? Like
Yeah.
how have I found this community outside, like, and the our percentage in the country is still so small. And it's like the right wing talking points or whatever would be that like we're doing something. It's like, no, 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 we all just converge here because we were looking for the same things and we felt the same way about our environments and like
Yeah,
what was not being nurtured in our lives and what we were told to be ashamed of or whatever else and so it starts to make more sense that way when you're like,
yeah,
yeah, everybody here is on the level or like everybody here is like me or and it's, I don't know, it's beautiful. Like I
yeah,
um I obviously like I encourage like um I encourage like straight people and cis people to like go and see a band that's all trans people and just see what you
yeah.
think about it. Like, absolutely,
I mean,
you
music
know what I
fucking
mean?
rules.
But yeah, but
Yeah,
when
I mean, yeah, like it just I think it makes a lot of sense that like, the sort of like explicit message of punk rock is that there's something wrong and that like a lot of trans people growing up, they understand that something is wrong, but they can't really put their finger on it. And then you hear like these punk rock bands that are like telling you that there's something wrong and it's certainly a message that like speaks to you. I mean, like a lot of the world, the way the world is, like, is built for like straight white people and that sort of thing. And like punk rock community is sort of like creating like a space to exist in that's like outside of that, and like showing you a different way to live that isn't following that sort of like bog standard thing that's been forced down us
yeah.
our whole life.
She tries to light a match, but she's shaking from the cold. Her last chance.
I think like some of the first things that drew me in, like as far as like, lyrics and stuff go, were just like how like, as like someone who was raised like to be a certain way, like you had all these ideas pushed down your throat as to what that's supposed to be, and punk bands were all like, fuck you, dad, like I'm not gonna be like you, and shit, and you're like, fuck
Yeah,
yeah, like because
not gonna get a fucking job. I'm gonna go rot in a gutter all day.
yeah, I'm not gonna fucking like be a misogynist piece of shit and like like I'm not gonna like fucking like be a bully or like like some kind of fucking like capitalist
Not gonna be an
narcissist
asshole. I'm not
pig.
gonna grow up and be
Yeah,
a mess man.
yeah,
Like I'm gonna grow up and be like a woman who cares about my community, doesn't want to live my whole life around getting money, just want to like take care of people, take care of my friends, take care of my community, that kind of shit. But
yeah. And I mean
it's not
like
what the world wants from us.
even before like even before you have like the language for that, like something connects you to that, like where you're just like, yeah, no, none of this is right, and eventually it's like it just unfolds. It all starts
Yeah,
unfolding.
like
It's
certainly when I was 12 and I was looking down the barrel of the rest of my life being like, well, you got to go to college, you got to get a nice job, you got to get married, you got to have kids. And even at 12 years old, I was like, that's it? That sounds like it fucking sucks. And then, like, I heard like the Ramones, I heard the Dead Kennedys, I heard the Sex Pistols, and they were all just like, oh, yeah, that shit does fucking suck. I was like, finally, someone else says it.
Yeah. Yeah, you like you I don't know, like, you come up in some environment where you're like you come home and either people are just watching TV and there's nothing else going on in their lives, or they're like screaming at each other, and you're like,
Yeah.
no fucking way in hell is this gonna,
Absolutely.
no
Yeah.
fucking way in hell is this gonna be my life, And so you figure out how to get somewhere else, like one way or another, and for, yeah, a lot of us, it is certainly music. So like you were talking about your band in Iowa, like um, basketball divorce court,
Yep.
right? Um,
That's us.
yeah, I thought I was gonna say the words out of order. Um, I don't think I've heard y'all, but that name sounds like I've heard it and been like, that's unusual in a cool way, right?
Yeah.
Were you all like touring and stuff before you moved? Like, did you have a lot of experience like playing out and stuff before you moved?
Not necessarily. I mean, we were kind of like we had like sort of connections to like because in 2019, like kind of in the Midwest, like emo was the really big thing. So we had kind of like a bigger connection with some of like the emo bands because they would come down into Iowa City and they would play to us because we were kind of like the or they would play with us because we were kind of like the hot draw in town. So like through that, we sort of like established these connections with people in like Wisconsin and like Chicago and in Minnesota and that kind of thing. We weren't really like hitting our own tours necessarily, but like we would like go play one-offs. So it's like kind of had that experience of like making wider connections within the scene, seeing that like the scene is more than just your own town, so to speak. And like, that kind of thing's a really big part of being in a band. And that's like, and then of course, then the pandemic came and shut everything down. I mean, Basketball Divorce Court in like 2023, we've started touring since then. But yeah, like kind of like it gave me experience with like moving through the scene as a scene and as a community in the way
Yeah,
that touring does.
yeah, because you realize like it's important to foster those kinds of
Yeah.
relationships where you're like, you know, well, we put this band up, and so they've offered, they've extended a hand like in their neck of the woods or whatever, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's, I mean, I don't I don't know. I think it's really wild sometimes when like it's there's bands that like aren't like that. you know? Like there's
Yeah.
bands that are just
It's
like,
weird.
yeah, yeah, cuz you're like,
It's weird when bands come at it with like this mentality of like, like clout chasing or like building up like their brand, like they're like a fucking company or whatever, versus like, oh yeah, these people coming through town, like, I want to put on a good show for them,
mhm,
show them that our town is a cool town to come and play because, they're going to come in and they're going to play like really good music. And of course, we want good music in our town. And then you meet them all, and I'm like, oh yeah, these dudes are rad, or like these girls are so cool and stuff.
mhm.
And then, like, whenever you decide you want to go on tour, you can just be like, hey, we're going to come through your town. It's sort of like a give and take sort of situation. But, like, I don't really, I don't try to see it as like transactional because, like, those people are my friends.
Yeah.
And, like, I do want to go and like play in their town because like I love getting out of town. I love seeing new shit. I love seeing new scenes. I love meeting new people, and it's great. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I mean, the part where you're on stage is like 15, 20 minutes, right? So like
Yeah,
everything else has to be dope too. Like,
yeah,
like you can't just like you like I can't even imagine if you just show up and like you're pretty much there just for your set, because like
yeah.
I don't know. Like there's a whole,
Yeah.
23 hours and 15 minutes in the day that you're just like uninterested or something, but
Yeah. It's like the people who come into town and they play a show and they play their own set and then they just sit in the green room for the rest of the time. I just don't get it. Doesn't make any sense to me.
yeah, no.
Go
I
out and hang out with people.
Yeah, I specifically would always be like, I want I want to play in this town because I want to see this one band play, and
Yeah,
and then like, oh, we get to play too. That's pretty cool.
that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like and also it'd be like, yeah, what's that place that I ate there last time? I gotta have that again. Like
Yeah,
this,
gotta have.
all that stuff. Um,
Yeah.
so like it kind of wasn't until like lockdowns lifted and stuff like that you started doing like a bit of touring on your own. Do you have any like particular like, oh, this was the best city we've played in, like outside of Minneapolis, or like, or any like, oh no, this show sucked for this reason, like any, you know
Oh yeah. I mean, I have very strong opinions about a lot of towns in the Midwest and a lot of places that we've played. I mean, like, I have a very big soft spot for Milwaukee. Milwaukee's like kind of like my home away from home. I
hmm
got some really nice friends that live there. Every time I'm there, they put me up and they treat me so nice. And they have like the coolest cat in the world, and it rules. And there's so many good bands in Milwaukee, and there's so many cool places to play in Milwaukee. It's just kind of a shame because sometimes it can be hard to book. And like I have a soft spot for any place that has like a nice like scene that's trans and queer centric. Like Lovergirl, we just got back from tour like a week ago, and we played in Bloomington, Indiana. And there's a pretty like it's a college town, so it's got a pretty like nice young scene of like queer and trans people who like just want to come out and see cool punk rock
hmm
and stuff. And it's so cool. It's so cool to like, like I said, look out and see like your audience is a bunch of people, bunch of like young trans people, and you're, kind of giving them the idea that like, oh yeah, this is like a thing that you can be involved in. This like really cool community that exists sort of like under the radar and like the country and that kind of stuff.
hmm
And we played Kansas City. That place was really cool. Played Iowa City. I mean, I used to live in Iowa City, so I have my own biases there, that
sure.
kind of stuff.
Good and bad,
You
I'm
know,
sure. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. My bigger tours have taken us out to the East Coast a lot, and like obviously, like New York is like the greatest city in the world, and that kind of stuff. And oh, I'm kind of hard pressed to find to talk shit on any towns, honestly, because like even if I were to, even if the show was bad, I kind of don't want to really like name names because there were still people there that were showing up and saw the gig and they liked it, and then they were really nice to us and put us up in their house. So I don't really want to talk shit on their
Yeah,
town
no,
or anything.
no, I wasn't. That's not really what I
Yeah.
meant. I just, sometimes it's
Well,
just like, oh, and like, we played at this gazebo, and like somebody had to bring out a generator, and like, sometimes
oh yeah.
circumstances are real fun. Like,
Yeah.
um,
See,
what?
whenever something like that happens, I always just blame like our band for booking it. Like, oh, we should have known better. We should have known better to book a better show.
No, it's this just came up because a friend of mine was gonna go see that band Rat Boys, and I was just thinking about how like we played with them in like 2017 in Redding, California, and we knew it was gonna be like a what a lot of folks would call a guerrilla show, where it's just like
Oh yeah,
you show up and
generators.
you well, in this case, it wasn't a generator. It was like it was
Oh,
a public park where there was just like a stone slab on the ground, and it had like a couple electrical outlets, and people would throw shows there. And the deal was like that it was really kind of far from everything. So like
mhm.
um like a lot of the times the cops would not even know you're out there. And the other part of it was that there was only like one way into this park, and you you could see if the cops were coming in to shut you down, you could see them coming in, like, and you would have like 10 minutes or something before they would even
Oh hell
get
yeah.
there. So that was the thing. They were like, so if the cops are coming, well, we're gonna like, we're gonna signal you, and you just like stop, and then like by the time they get here, it won't be that loud, and they'll just leave us alone, and then once they leave, then we'll start playing again, and so this was all good, and the cops actually never came at all. But the funny part of that show was, like I said, we're in Redding, California, and we're playing with that band, and like we're just like, oh, it's like, yeah, it's November, but it's California, and it's like we were
Oh,
fucking freezing out there. Like
oh, jeez.
I was playing drums and doing vocals, and I'm straight up in like a winter coat, like playing
Yeah.
drums, and like, and the guitar player is like, he's like he's like, my fingers, I don't know how many more songs I can play. Like it's like my fingers are so frozen, and like they're just getting shredded by the strings, and you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. It
I've
was
played some garage shows in like the winter, so I know what that feels like.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like, I don't know. I love those kinds of stories. Like I've got too many of them. But yeah, yeah, Bloomington, is, so that's where Indiana University is, and then
Yeah.
here where I live is Purdue University, and they're like heads and tails on the same coin. Like Indiana is like super liberal like art college, and
Hmm.
Purdue is like a super conservative engineering college. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense. That's like where like lots of trans people, lots of queer people, like will show up at the show. It's always been that way. Like I've always loved playing Bloomington. And then here it's like like you just
Yeah.
don't know. It's like who's like
Yeah. You just
what
don't.
is
Yeah.
yeah. But like I said, it was cool. We played, and there were trans people there, and I was like, this rules.
And people.
But
It was crazy.
yeah, you said you just got back from a tour. That was with Ami Okama, right?
Yeah, well, we played a cup. We played like maybe like three shows with Ami Okama. It was a pretty short run. We
Mm-hmm.
had like three shows with Ami Okama that we kind of jumped on the bill that Aki had put together, and then we put like we booked two of our own shows after it, so it felt more like a tour rather than just like a few days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And was that y'all's first time like out?
yeah, that was Lovergirl's first
Okay.
time on the
I
road,
was gonna say, because
and
your EP is barely a month old at this point.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we've
um,
only been a band for like about a year or two, so
yeah.
we played
Um,
less than like 15 shows, I think.
yeah. What so you were a band about a year, and the songs came together. Like, had you been sitting on them long before releasing them? Or was it just
Um,
like, hey, we're ready. We got the
well,
mixes, throw them up.
it took us a while. It took us a while to record was kind of the thing because, well, I wanted to start a screamo band in like late 2023 because I was starting to get really into screamo at the time, and I got like kind of the lineup sort of coalesced by like March of 2024, and then from March to 2024 till like October was like us like writing all the songs and like learning them and like getting all the parts put together. And we played our first show in October 2024 with you, Damon, and we started recording the songs, which was basically like our whole set was just like we had 6 songs and we just were going to record the whole thing as an album. We started recording that in November of 2024, and then we kind of had the songs written, but didn't really have like all the vocals written yet, and that kind of took us a while to finish. So like we kind of the rest of recording the album kind of dragged a little bit while we were writing the vocals, and then a couple months in we were kind of like, I don't like how the guitars sound, let's re-record all the guitars, so we did all that, and then eventually we wrote all the vocals, got them all recorded. In that process, me and Angie, our drummer, kind of learned how to scream well too, because initially the first time we tried to record vocals, it didn't sound very great because I didn't really know how to scream. Um, but like a couple months of practice, that got well. So then eventually it got to a point where everything sounded good, and then we were able to send it off to get mixed and mastered with our friend who recorded us, and then pretty much, yeah, once it was done, we got album artwork and dropped it as soon as we could
Yeah.
because
Um,
we'd been sitting with it for so long.
yeah. So a couple of questions about that then. So like when you were playing shows, but you didn't really have like the vocals like nailed down, like what were y'all doing? Just like improvising?
We're kind of just like doing the instrumentals, honestly. It was kind of like
Oh,
we
okay.
had all the instrumentals written, and then we were kind of just like, oh yeah, we should put vocals here. Should put vocals here. And then we would like, have an idea of what one part would go. We'd play it at a couple of shows and then be like, yeah, I don't know if that's the way the part should go, and then come back and rewrite it and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And when you said you didn't like you tried to do the vocals once and you didn't really know like how to scream, like um
Yeah.
did you seek like outside information to help you with that, or did you just like keep practicing and sort of figure it out?
Yeah, it was kind of like a keep practicing and sort of figuring it out. Like I was watching like TikTok videos, YouTube videos about like how do I fry scream,
Mm-hmm.
but like it never the way that they explained it never like kind of seemed super intuitive, and like I still don't really know how to fry scream. I think I'm doing false chord screams, but it's really hard to tell. But it was just kind of like eventually the more and more I would do it, it became easier to hit that range where it had the sort of distortion that I liked,
Mm-hmm.
and then it would be became easier and easier to do that like right from the get go.
Yeah. I um I don't every once in a while someone will like throw a couple dollars on a release on Bandcamp of something that I recorded, like, a song of ours from like 8 years ago or something, and I'll be like, oh, I actually don't remember what that song sounds like. So I'll listen to it, and I'm like, oh shit, like what was I doing to my throat, like in that song,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
yeah, I don't know. Like now, I I think I think that a lot of times like my voice doesn't necessarily sound as intense, but also I'm like I know that I'm not like giving myself like fucking polyps and shit
Yeah,
by
you're not
doing it.
doing lasting
Yeah.
damage.
Yeah, yeah. Cuz I'm like
Yeah, I'm just hoping that's where I'm gonna be at in like 4 or 5 years, being
yeah.
like, what the hell was I doing back then?
Yeah, it's just I don't know. So I do listen to some stuff sometimes and I'm like, whoa, it'd be kind of weird to play that one, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, like it would not sound like that now, but yeah, I don't know. It's fun. I I I always thought like, yeah, like you don't have to learn how to do this. Like you can just do it. You can just be mad, right, and scream,
Yeah,
and you don't have to like do warm ups or whatever. And then like you know, I just
you
like
get on stage and you sound like a dying cat.
yeah. I mean, like I just had instances where like stuff like I wouldn't I wouldn't be warmed up, So like the first couple of songs, I'd be like, you know, and so I just started like, and I don't know, it's kind of funny like imagining like like a few minutes before we play or whatever, and someone's like, "What's she doing in like what's she doing in her car?" Like I'm on YouTube in
Yeah.
my car, like you know Z Z Z Z Z or some shit, and yeah, then I'm just gonna go in there and be like, "Rah!" But yeah, it's all like I just want to be able to do this as long as I can at this point. So
Yeah,
it's important.
yeah.
Like, I mean, um, I think like
Very important.
yeah, when
And
I
take care
was
of your
20 years old, like everything was rubber, and everything would bounce back, everything would snap back right into place, like except for that tooth that I chipped with the mic. Except for that tooth, like
Yeah.
everything would be fine the next day. But like, anymore, it's like I'm like, no, you know what? Like this is actually the most important thing that I am doing with my life. Like I ought to try to make sure I can keep at it.
Keep doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you said that you've more or less been, with these songs and had them ready for a while, and now that they're out there, what is sort of like your like the next step for you as a band? Like, are you just constantly like putting new songs together, or are you like, now let's like go and play these for people? Like, what's coming up in the future?
Well, we actually haven't written any other new songs. I mean, like I have like ideas. We've got like some like demos of like parts floating around, but we don't really have like anything concrete because like all of our time and effort was kind of being pushed into like getting this album out, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And like, of course we're all in other bands, so we're all also going through that same like cycle of like writing new songs and putting stuff out with those other bands as well.
Mm-hmm.
That like we've kind of just hit this with Lovergirl. We're kind of like, well, the album's out. We've toured on it. We have like a few more shows. We have like Queer Ritual coming up here in Minneapolis. And then after that, we're going to take a big old break. And then we're going to go ahead and write like a new album. And then we have all these grandiose ideas about what we want the album to sound like and that kind of thing. And, hopefully it turns out that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's that's there's something about like when you make a plan or whatever. But
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I mean, what else are you gonna do, right? So there's like, when is that fest? I keep seeing about it, but
Oh, it's the end of October. It's like October 24th and 25th, I think.
oh, okay,
Miri put together a real good lineup for it.
yeah, yeah, it looks awesome. I've seen people post about it. I don't remember who all's playing, but it was like a really like wild lineup.
Oh yeah.
And then like it's more or less like, you know, back to the drawing board. Like, were you planning on writing like an LP?
Yeah. I mean, we kind of think of the release that just came out as an album. I know like Spotify and Apple Music kind of call it an EP, and there's not really anything we can do about it. But yeah, we're kind of right now like the working vision is sort of like something that's longer, like maybe like a 45 to 50-minute release.
Yeah, because it's not a short amount of time
Yeah.
for the 6 songs that you did release. For it felt just like you were
Yeah.
alive. Like,
I mean, like I've put out hardcore records that are shorter, but
yeah,
they're called records. So I'm like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, um, yeah. It's, I don't know. That's such a like, I don't I like, I shouldn't have been calling it an EP. Like, but like, yeah, it's
Like I understand why you do because it
no, it's
says it's an EP on like streaming.
right, right. It's just so
Yeah.
weird. It's because it's like, yeah, okay, like I've released like 13 songs in like 18 minutes, and I'm like, that's an LP, and it's an
Yeah.
LP like because I say it is, and so
Yeah.
like, yeah, we have like that, like, you know dominion over our art. Whether like, I mean, uh, one band that I do, like, our first thing was 20 tracks, and it was like literally 7 minutes. So like, and I'm like, yeah, that's an LP.
Trying to
I
do
mean,
more.
I don't, it's 20 tracks. What do
Yeah.
you want, Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it is like, and like I said before, I had, one project where it was like 6 songs and it was like 38 minutes, so like, yeah, um, I don't know. It's wild. Like how like there was some kind of like establishment answer for like what defines this and what defines that. And there still is, but like, you know, one like black metal EP or something, right? It could be 2 songs, and it could be like 30 minutes, and they're like, no, this is an EP, and you're like, not where I'm sitting, but yeah, I don't know. It's like, I think that's beautiful that we just like have, I mean, like we, obviously that's the way it should be, that we have control over like what we
Yeah.
call our art and how we present it. But
And
yeah, it's like when it comes to like, oh, some streamer is going to be like, this isn't a song, this is a sample because it's only 25 seconds long, and you're like, shut the
I've
fuck up.
never heard of grindcore before.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like
it's a song, it's the
it's a
whole
song.
idea that we are trying to put
Yeah.
across. It's just in 25 seconds. But yeah, I have had a real nice time chatting with you. I am looking forward to whatever y'all do next after the show and things start settling down and you're able to do some more songs. I hope y'all come back through Indiana and we can play together at some point.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
but yeah, I was wondering, like, is there anything else that we should chat about before we take off?
I don't know. Being transgender is cool. If you want to be transgender, you should be transgender. It's the coolest thing in the world. Don't let the current state of affairs get you down about it. There's ways. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it the establishment way. There's ways you can do it no matter what. And we gotcha. Reach out to the lovergirl account if you have any questions.
And that was my conversation with Elena. Thank you so much, Elena, for taking the time to chat with me. Make sure y'all go check out that release on Bandcamp now. And until next time, take care and do good things.